Welcome to the second episode of Yankees Coast to Coast. I'm your host, Mike Carbone.
And I'm Blake Blackburn.
And I'm Auden Mitchell.
Let's get into it, fellas.
Off-season definitely slowed down a little bit. The hot stove is not too hot, but there's still a lot of free agents that are still pretty coveted that are out there on the open market. Blake, who would you like to see the Yankees go out and go get or maybe even trade for?
Well, we touched on Stroman last episode and, how he kind of fits in with our rotation. Going off of that, I still think that I would like to add another arm to that rotation to really put us over the top and being the premier team in the American League. I think with the improvements in the lineup that, another big arm in that rotation can really put us over the top and being that premier team. So a few guys that come to mind, obviously in the free agent market, you got Blake Snell, who's coming off a Cy Young Award last season. Put up phenomenal numbers in San Diego, 14-9, 2.25 ERA. And finally, it's a guy who's, a little bit inconsistent, hasn't been able to stay on the field, pitch a lot of innings, in the past. He's had a couple years where he's been above 180, but for the most part, he's around 115, 120. So that worries me a little bit, but, I think he'd fit in well. He pitches relatively well in the playoffs, too, which is something that's always a plus. But a couple other guys that come to mind for me in the trade market would be Dylan Cease over in Chicago and Corbin Burns in Milwaukee. Obviously, between the two, and if I'm going to make a trade, I'd rather that trade be for Cy Young Award-winning Corbin Burns. Just a guy who's been good example of consistency over the past few years. Struck out over 200 guys the past 3 years, and has had a pretty good, respectable ERA as well. So. Those are a couple guys that I think that could come in here and do some damage and really put our rotation over the top and put our team over the top as well. But, we'll see what happens, and, a lot of moves to be made.
I like it. Auden, what are you thinking?
Well, I would agree with trading for Corbin Burns. I think we definitely have a few more pieces to spare for him. Very good over the last few years. Like Blake said, he's getting a lot of strikeouts, over 200 each year. Another thing that I really like about his pitching is he doesn't give up too many hard hit balls, and in addition, he has a slightly below average fly ball rate on batted balls. So at Yankee Stadium, I think that's going to be a really important piece, especially him being a guy who can eat up a lot of innings. He had 193 innings pitched last year. However, in contrast to though, Dylan Cease is not a guy I would like to trade for. He nasty stuff, a lot of strikeouts, lots of strikeouts his entire career. Strikeouts has been his game. But he gives us way too many fly balls, way too many hard hit balls. I would not trust him at Yankee Stadium whatsoever. That's what I liked a lot about the Stroman deal. He doesn't give up many fly balls, lots of ground balls. Dylan Cease, you got the opposite of that. I wouldn't trust that at Yankee Stadium. In regards to Blake Snell, obviously coming off a Cy Young win, very good in the playoffs, like Blake said. Lots of strikeouts, similar to Cease. But we gave him the offer. It was 5-6 years, $150 million. I don't think anyone's going to match that. And obviously, he's looking for $240 million, but I don't see him getting that with how inconsistent he's been over the years.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that sentiment. Cease definitely doesn't intrigue me too much. I mean, like you said, Auden. I mean, the ground ball to fly ball ratio definitely doesn't bode well for him, especially with a short porch. And on top of that, the White Sox are looking for a king's ransom for him, so doesn't seem too realistic. And in terms of Corbin Burns, I mean, obviously he's definitely the most ideal guy to trade for. But you have to keep in mind that he is also a Scott Boras client, so we cannot expect the Yankees to get an extension for him. He's going to want to see free agency, similar to Soto. So we'll see what happens based off of that. But I think, I don't mind the Yankees sitting pat until the deadline in terms of the starting pitching anyway, just because if Rodon isn't the guy that we signed him to be, we're in a world of trouble anyway. So my expectation is that he's going to step up this year, and I think Stroman will be enough to get us to where we want to be, mid-July, around the All-Star break. And then from there, we'll see what happens. But anyone else, though, I mean, Snell, he's definitely an enticing piece, but like Blake mentioned, he can be a little bit inconsistent. I mean, the years that he's great, he's arguably the best pitcher in baseball. I mean, it's 2018 and then this past year, I mean, are, Hall of Fame kind of seasons. But, everything else in between, then, there's some injuries involved and, doesn't quite eat the innings the way that a guy like Burns would. So we'll see what happens. The Yankees are the only team that have a legit deal on the table, and it's not like it was a slap in the face offer. So we'll see what happens. But, I honestly wouldn't mind seeing the Yankees really try to bolster their bullpen. A supercharged bullpen would be pretty ideal. I like the idea of bringing Middleton back. And who else we got out there? I mean, I'm not crazy about bringing Wandy back. I know a lot of people like him, but as I said last episode, his FIP this past year was like 5 and something. I mean, he really got bailed out by whoever came in to clean up the mess he typically left. I mean, that was the one reason why his ERA was below 3 this past year. So,
I mean, Wandy's a guy that, he's been with us for a few years. Fans have grown to love him, but personally, the way we're going, I think, it's probably time, like you said, it's probably time to move away from Wandy. I definitely love the idea of bringing Middleton back. Came across, had 14 some innings with us last year, and they pitched really well. I think a 1.88 ERA, which is, really well. I think that would be a solid piece to add to that pen. I don't think it'd be very costly either. Probably get him for, a couple year deal, something like that. But that'd be another guy to, you can probably get it for a pretty good discount to come back and, pitch for the Yankees. But, there's a lot of talk about, Neris from Houston. He came out and said he's seeking a 2-year deal between 7 and 11 million. And, to me, I know he's 34, but if that's all he's wanting, I'm totally fine giving him a 2-year, $9 million deal right there in the terms of what he's interested in, coming off the year he had last year, asking 7 to 11 million. To me, I think I say give it to him, let him prove it again. If not, it's not the end of the world. You're not paying him, all the money that Houston's paying Josh Hader now with that deal. But, see what happens. I personally, going back to the starting pitching, I personally don't think they're going to make a move now, like you said. But I think the bullpen, I think there's maybe a move or two to be made.
Yeah, in regards to Neris, I mean, originally he was looking at 3 years, 50 mil. This 7 mil to 11 mil is much more reasonable. I could definitely spring for that if it's only 2 years. It's cheap. It's affordable. We could do it if we wanted to. And with the bullpen we had now, like we said last week, it's a pretty weak bullpen. Why not get all the help you can get? Similar to Blake's comments on Middleton, you could probably say the same for Lou Trevino, who we've seen in pinstripes before. He came in it was the Montas deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, another Matt Blake masterpiece, coming into the Yankees with a 5+ ERA, leading with a sub-2 ERA. I say bring him back. He had nasty stuff with us, and I think he'd continue to have nasty stuff with us. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Go get Trevino and Middleton and take a gamble on Neris, a cheap gamble.
I'm with that. I mean, there's definitely there's definitely a bit to be desired still with the bullpen. I mean, the rotation kind of is what it is, and I don't fault Cashman for not overspending on somebody that's not a for sure thing. I mean, he kind of already did that with Rodon, and look where we're at now. I mean, he's basically going to be the pendulum for the season in terms of if he's good, we're probably going to be a World Series favorite. If not, we're going to have to figure something else out to replace that because, I mean, we're paying him near $30 million a year to be a number 2. So, hopefully we get the guy from Chicago in 21 and San Francisco in 22. But
you can't help to imagine what a 1-2 punch of Cole in 2021, 2022 Rodon would be like, especially with Stroman coming in after them. That'd be
for sure.
Be something to see, man.
It has us all salivating, that's for sure. But
throw a little 21, 22 Nestor in there. Ugh.
Yeah. That'd be really something.
Yeah, that's. I feel like we were starting to dream a little bit. But with that being said, how would you guys grade this offseason so far? Blake, I'll let you go first.
I mean, we knew a big move had to be made. That was the talk all season. Disappointing season or worst season, and Yankees have had in a very long time since we've all been on this earth, really. So it's been a long time since we've had a down year like that. You go back to those years, um, 2013, 14. But last year really, I think, takes the cake, top to bottom. Just a lot of things going on last year. Um, but like we said, we had to have a big move, and we did that. We got Juan Soto. We got probably the biggest name on the market this year in terms of trades. But so we were probably harsh on Hal and Cashman, throughout the season. But I got to tip my cap to them. They made that move, so I think it's been a successful offseason. It's been a while since we've gone out and made a big time splash like that, and it's gonna do well for us.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I mean, how many years have we been screaming for lefty bats in that lineup? We've got two. We got
Exactly.
Verdugo and now the best young player in baseball, Juan Soto. Offensively, they've done a great job. On the pitching side, obviously we got Stroman, and we've additionally offered Snell that contract. Who knows if that'll end up going through or not? Like Mike said, we're the only team that really has given them an offer. So who knows? But overall, I'd give it a solid A minus. I mean, it's a lot more than I expected. Um, and these deals have given me a lot to look forward to into going into the 2024 year.
Definitely feel a lot better going into this year than you know last year or previous years. But there's always that excitement there. As you're getting ready to get into a season, and hopefully this year plays out a lot better than last year.
For sure. I think Dan Rourke was the one who tweeted, we're 30 games, or 30 games, 30 days away from the first spring training game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely something to look forward to. I mean, I know a lot of guys are already in Tampa right now. But in terms of grading the offseason, though, I would give both ownership and Cashman I'd say between a B plus to A minus. So right on
I
the
like
fence of
that.
it of an A. Uh, I think they could have, if they could have gotten Yamamoto, that would have A plus for sure. Didn't work
Yeah,
out. He wanted to be in LA, so I mean I can't really fault them for that. But in terms of everything else, though, I mean they got the premier left-handed hitting uh, superstar in Juan Soto. I mean, he's the guy that, so many people have been calling for. Like, this is the guy we need to have in pinstripes. This guy hits in October.
yep,
This guy is balanced at the plate. He's got a great eye. He is exactly what the Yankees dynasty years in the 90s, they were what they were like. I mean, that's exactly what he is. He works the counts. He's very gritty at the plate and, commands the strike zone and, hits the ball hard all over the place. He's not pull happy, and we need more of that. And he's the perfect guy to pair up with Aaron Judge to give him some help because, I mean, honestly, it'd be a real shame to not see someone like him end up winning a World Series. We don't want to see him end up being like Don Mattingly. So,
yeah,
with that being said, I mean, this is definitely the offseason they needed to have, and I think the Yankees will be aggressive at the deadline to go get themselves that starting pitcher to put them over the top.
for
Prices are
sure.
probably a little bit too high right now, and I think when things shake out after halfway through the year, I think that'll you know the prices should drop a little bit, because you're only getting a couple of months of somebody instead of an entire year of somebody. So it definitely makes sense from their perspective. So, I mean, I'm pretty content with what they did this off season. Definitely, this is the most excited I've been for opening day since probably 2018.
For sure, man. Couldn't agree more. Like you said, um, obviously Soto, but those other guys they were able to bring in and kind of piece together the team and make it actually seem like a complete team. As last year there was a lot of question marks, which I'm happy some of those are in the past, and better things to look forward to from as compared to 5 6 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, Mike and I given the offseason about an A minus B plus. they're just a few bullpen arms away from that easily being an A, nearly an A plus. I think if we get a few
Yeah,
bullpen arms and on top of that, a free agent signing, whether it be Blake Snell or a trade like Corbin Burns, as Blake said, that could easily bring it up to an A. And if we don't get any free agents, dump on Soto for 10 years.
A, like you said, Middleton, another reliever, maybe Neris or whoever else, a couple relievers, and that probably moves up to an A for me.
I'm with you on that. What do you guys think of the dynamic of the team now in terms of like the clubhouse culture? I know for me personally, I've seen a bunch of videos on YouTube. I mean, Gleyber Torres put out a video of the guys working in Tampa. They called it Bronx, Florida. So I'm real eager to see the guys that have been here for a bit. I've seen them already interacting with Soto online. They just seem really. It seems like it's going to be a real good group of guys, and I think adding some guys that are extremely passionate about the game and play with a chip on their shoulder. The Verdugos, Soto, and Stroman. That's three extremely passionate guys, and I really tried to hit that nail on the head in the last episode. Is that's something that the Yankees have missed, for some years now, and I'm extremely happy to have that fire in the clubhouse, and I think it's going to be a real good mix with the guys that are pretty cool and collected. Like Judge is a little bit more like Jeter, the reserved captain, and lets his play do the talking for the most part. But sometimes he'll get kind of excited, but for the most part, pretty even keel. But I definitely think they needed some fire, and they added some of that this offseason. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a real good mix, kind of like the way things kind of gelled in '09. I think I can see
Yep.
that
Like
kind of happening now.
a guy like Nick Swisher bringing that swagger into the clubhouse, and a couple of those guys, kind of,
Oh, yeah,
definitely changed the vibes going into that year. And,
for sure.
you got a guy like Stroman, you got a guy like Soto, some guys that are, more bring that swagger back to the
Hmm.
Bronx. That's something to be excited for. I mean, you got a lot of guys who are very passionate about baseball, and they express that in many different ways. But I think we got a great group, and they seem to be gelling well, at least in the off season. But the real test is how do they play together? How are they going to gel on the field? And obviously this is a great start. Being outside of baseball, having them kind of coming together in this off season. That speaks a lot, and hopefully that transitions onto the field as we get going in this season.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to Stroman and Soto as well, there was that little interaction they had on Instagram the other week where it was that clip Stroman posted of him doing the Soto shuffle back when he struck Soto out, and they had that was a nice little exchange there. Obviously, last week I said I was a little iffy on how Stroman might be in that clubhouse with his previous comments on the Yankees, but based on that, I mean, he's starting off with the right foot. So there's a lot to look forward to Stroman. Verdugo, he's pretty reserved on social media. He's pretty private, but you've seen clips of him mic'd up. He just radiates positive energy throughout that clubhouse, throughout his dugout, whatever team he's on. And these are three guys with big personalities that I think will contribute a lot of positivity to that clubhouse.
Yeah, like I said, I'm super excited. They've really got a good group of guys, and they'd truly be. Seems like a bunch of guys would be fun to be around. Just to be a fly on the wall. I'm sure there's so many great conversations they're having right now already because they're training. A lot of them are in Tampa training right now. Like I think, what was it? Aaron Judge had his All Rise Foundation.
Yep. Saw a
What
lot of
was
the
that?
guys there together. Just I've seen various different events throughout this offseason. The guys are, coming together, whether that be weddings for certain guys, getting back together with even old guys. Everybody's, finding ways to get together and kind of build that team bond, which is definitely something that excites me. But like I said, until we see it on the field,
Yeah,
that's all
for
that
sure.
is mush. But
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely something to talk about, but definitely not too much to speculate about, though, at the same time, because, I mean, like I said, I mean, you look at like the Padres last year, they had all these superstars and they didn't finish above 500. I mean, they had
it's
what
definitely
Todd,
crazy considering they had a they were up there for one of the better offenses in the league, and they had one of the best, team ERAs and pitching stats in the league. So it's like, what went wrong? It's got to be that clubhouse dynamic. Something just wasn't right.
Yeah. So I mean, so we'll see what happens, but I'm definitely very eager to get this season started. Hopefully we get out of spring training fairly healthy, and we could get off to a hot start because that just feeds into the rest of the year. But with all that, what are you guys thinking about around the league? Recent Hall of Fame inductions. Uh, you guys got any thoughts?
Well, I'll go ahead and just start talking before we get into some, a couple things around the league. Congratulations, Adrian Beltre, Joe Bauer, Todd Helton, and Jim Leland getting into the Hall of Fame. Obviously, a tremendous honor for those players and coaches, but um, those three guys in particular definitely played a large part in my childhood and watching baseball growing up, especially growing up in Texas with Adrian Beltre. You know, can't find a better major leaguer than Adrian Beltre. Just a class act player on and off the field. Almost 450 plus home runs, over 3,000 hits. Incredible glove there at third base. Hats off to those guys. They definitely deserve it.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
Maurer and Helton were a little before my time, but Maurer, being a first ballot, he was a person that a lot of people disagreed with being a Hall of Famer. People said, "Oh, he's Hall of Very Good." You're not going to find a much better offensive catcher.
Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument, maybe not first ballot, whatever, but he's definitely a Hall of Fame guy. But personally, you know, bringing my Yankee fan into this, Joe Mauer's a Hall of Famer. Jorge Posada should be a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
110% took the words right out of my mouth, Blake. Yeah. I said I tweeted this the other day, or was it today maybe, that Jorge Posada is the most underrated Yankee of the past 30 years. I think he's the one guy that just does not get the love that he deserves because people tend to crap on his defense, and understandably so. He wasn't the best defensive catcher, but I mean, he is one of the best hitting catchers of all time. And I think that gets lost because, there were so many other good guys on that Yankee team. The Jeters, the A-Rods, Bernie. I mean, there's, several.
The list is endless. Cano,
Yeah.
Matsui. I mean, you keep going.
Yeah, Giambi, Teixeira. I mean, he played with a lot of great hitters and a lot of great players. I mean, great pitchers. I mean, he gets, he's probably. Now, people say that Bernie's the most underrated guy from those teams, but I think it's Jorge. I mean, it's kind of 1A, 1B. But anyways, yeah, I definitely think that Jorge should be in Cooperstown sooner than later. He earned it in my eyes. Um, but on top of that, those other guys. I mean, Todd Helton, that guy just absolutely raked. Maurer raked. I mean, I remember, us facing the Twins in the playoffs in '09, 2010. I mean, Maurer was always such a hard out. And you were always, on the edge of your seat because, I mean, that guy he just hit the ball hard all the time.
Those were some good
And
games, but we definitely had our way
yeah,
with them.
yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, he just did not have enough help in Minnesota. I mean,
Yeah,
phenomenal player, great guy, phenomenal athlete too, I might add. I mean, that guy could have played quarterback in the NFL if he wanted to.
yeah.
And
I think he was
called
a
it.
big time multi-sport athlete coming out of high school.
Yeah,
He had his
pretty,
pick between football and
yeah,
baseball.
yeah. I'm pretty sure he was the number one rated quarterback coming out of high school, if I'm not mistaken. And he was committed to where was it? He was committed somewhere really big. I forget where it was, but I mean, you could definitely see that, and how he would throw runners out left and right. And Beltre, what could you say about him? I mean, he just a great personality. Like Blake said, we got to have an up close and up front view of his last bit of his career in Texas. Phenomenal hitter, phenomenal fielder, and everybody just raved about him, as a person. So I mean, kudos to him.
Throw out one of my favorite Beltray moments is when he was on deck one game and he wanted to move the on deck circle and went back and forth with the umpire moving that on deck circle and ended up getting tossed. That was just totally Adrian Beltre and his personality, and would hate it when guys would try to touch his head. Just goofy stuff, but definitely well respected.
I definitely. That was when That was 2017, I think, when when Stanton came here, when he was
I
like
believe so.
that
He
crazy
had a
summer he had. Yeah, but he was just
yeah.
hitting tanks left and right. That was that August too, I'm pretty sure, where he was just, I think he hit 18 home runs that month, something ungodly.
Yep. He had a few
But
in that series.
yeah, I'm trying to think. There anything else going on around the league right now that's
Well,
got
I
you guys
mean,
intrigued right now?
you want to stay on this Hall of Fame topic real quick? I got to get this out, man. I know we all agree that there's a couple of guys on that ballot
Oh
that
yeah,
didn't get the votes, and one of those guys is, I believe that was his 10th and final time on the ballot, in Gary Sheffield, and then you have
yeah,
Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, on that ballot as well. Um, you know, that's the talk of it every year, right? Those guys who are tied to the steroids in baseball and that steroid era, will they get in? Whatever. We've already seen Barry Bonds go 10 years on the ballot and not get in, but to me, it's going to sound basic, kind of what everybody on our side say, but you can't tell the story of baseball without those guys. And that being said, you got to open the doors to the Hall of Fame. And I'll be upset one day if Altuve gets in the Hall of Fame and A Rod and Bonds and those guys are not.
Well, on a more positive note, they've announced the 2025 Hall of Fame election, and two big Yankees in there. Ichiro, who's most likely going to be unanimous, let's be honest here. And CC Sabathia, who is personally my favorite pitcher of all time, but I don't see any world he doesn't get into that Hall of Fame. Fantastic pitcher throughout his career, Cleveland, Milwaukee, and then obviously in pinstripes. I remember seeing his final pitch and tearing up. I think it was Game 4 of the 2019 LCS where he tore his shoulder. He
Yeah.
came out, like,
yeah. Blew it out.
pitched till his body literally broke down. Absolute dog, 3,000 strikeouts, 250, 160 record, something ridiculous like that. Absolutely a Hall of Famer, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, CC is just definitely a great clubhouse presence too. I think that's something that they can kind of get lost in. Him just being that bulldog on the mound and just a lock for 200 plus innings, and a guy you could send out there on 3 days rest in the postseason. I mean, he was definitely the guy you wanted to hand to in game one of every series. And then Ichiro, I mean, he was a great boost to the Yankees too. I mean, obviously he's going to go in as a Mariner, but those couple of years he was in New York, I mean, he was a great. He definitely fun to watch. I mean, he's always been a favorite of mine growing up, and everybody would love to impersonate his little batting stance routine. Do the yeah. And yeah, I mean, besides Sheffield, that's like the next guy, I think.
How can you forget Ichiro? I mean, of course, a Yankee, but definitely one moment from Ichiro's career that I remember. Unfortunately, obviously, hitting that walk-off home run off of Mo. He didn't hit too many home runs, but you know, big moment. Ichiro is going to come through. He's going to put that bat on the ball, and he got a good piece off of Mo, which didn't happen too much, but it's definitely something that comes to mind. And speaking about CC, it's great to see a hell of a guy. Great guy, and it's great to see him now in his post baseball career, kind of being. He seems like a big fan, and he's still around with the guys. Talking about the Yankees. He's just a great guy, and a guy that even while he's not playing or a part of the team, it's just a guy that you still want to have around your guys, and provides a lot of knowledge to those younger guys, and just an all around stand up guy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, hopefully he gets in his first time around. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it's the Hall of Fame voting is pretty weird. I'm definitely an advocate of those guys like A-Rod, Bonds, Clemens, McGuire. I think those guys should be getting in. But if if David Ortiz didn't get in, then I would say, okay, it is what it is. I think those guys should be in. But if you're going to have it one way, so be it. But if you let one in, you got to let the other guys in too, though. And you can't just have media favorites because everybody loves David Ortiz. And He was
you
on
know,
that
Bill
same list in
Walton,
2003 as A Rod and a bunch
not
of those
saying
other
he's not a
guys.
good dude, but he
No, I
has
loved
a
it.
he's got
I
a
no,
of
yeah,
course, but he's built that image of him as being that awesome guy, which he is, and like no
yeah,
disrespect to him and any of those guys, but Bonds and A Rod played more of that villain role, and that's just not something I think you should hold against a guy. Just the way sometimes his attitude was. I mean, at the end of the day, they're on that same list, and Bonds and A Rod, no disrespect to David Ortiz, better baseball players.
yeah. I don't know if it's necessarily close either. I mean, obviously David Ortiz, the guy in the postseason everyone wanted to be, but in terms of
Oh
full
yeah,
body of work,
I'll give him that one. I'll give him that
yeah,
one.
yeah, which is fair.
No doubt
So
about it. I mean, especially it seemed like every time we battled with him, we seem to be on the wrong end of that, but it is what it is.
yeah,
I feel like one more thing we should touch on before we wrap is the Los Angeles Dodgers and how ridiculous their offseason has been since we haven't talked about them in either of these episodes.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say, man. Spending over $1 billion on your team. Granted,
on two
the the,
guys.
Sh- the Shohei contract is crazy. How that breaks down, but they're going to be tough to beat as they have been for the better part of the past decade. But at the end of the day, they can win all the games they want, like just like they have the past decade. It doesn't matter unless they win multiple World Series with the money they've spent. In my opinion, one isn't even good enough. In my opinion, you're spending all that money, you're getting Shohei Ohtani, adding him to an already you know very strong lineup, very strong team, and you're going out and grabbing the biggest one of the biggest prize pitching free agents coming over. It's at the end of the day, they gotta win multiple championships, in my opinion, for it to be worth it. But
And that's not even mentioning
props
Tyler
to them.
Glasnow and Teoscar Hernandez.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean that's gonna make them that much more deadly, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, definitely think they run away with their division at this point, but yeah, it's a lot of money. But
Yeah, definitely will be a cakewalk that division for them. The NL West. You know, it's kind of crazy though. I mean, the team that won the pennant is in their division, but
yeah,
I don't see how the Diamondbacks.
no, I
I
mean I
mean,
know
this.
a couple hours ago they got Jock Peterson, but
Yeah, and
that
that's been their big
definitely does
signing.
not that
I
does
mean,
not
they got a Wandy
compete.
Rodriguez, didn't they? Not Wandy Rodriguez or Eduardo. No, who Rodriguez from Detroit?
Eduardo, yeah.
Eduardo.
Eduardo Rodriguez.
Eduardo Rodriguez. Yeah, I don't want to call him Wandy Rodriguez.
It's not going to do it. Obviously, the Dodgers won that division over them by 17 some odd games
Yeah, yeah,
last year.
they just,
They
yeah,
just got
they
hot at the
just.
right time and won 3 games. So
The Dodgers went cold at the wrong time.
that's the
Yeah,
thing with the Dodgers, man. Like obviously, this is a different team that they have this year, but
To the Diamondbacks, that was also just such a weird postseason. Such a weird
yeah,
postseason on so many
yeah,
levels.
yeah.
it
Definitely
was.
felt off.
But it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens when we play them up in the Bronx this year. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll have the Bronx very rowdy, and there'll be a lot of fans in the house, and it'll be a game, a lot of star power.
Early June, early summer. I'll be there. It'll be fun.
Yeah, you got to. It's a great environment. Now, uh, speaking from last year, I talked about I was at the Yankees Dodgers games at Dodger Stadium, and it's just it's different than kind of any other matchup. I've been fortunate enough to go to a Yankees Red Sox game. That's obviously awesome, the rivalry and the atmosphere there. But it's just different for this Yankees Dodgers matchup. It's just probably the most historic franchises in Major League Baseball, and
In
for the better
sports.
part of yeah,
Yeah,
and for the better part of recent history, the AL and NL not playing as many games against each other like they do starting last year. We didn't see them quite often, so I think it's just two great fan bases, and when they have a chance to get together and watch these two historic teams, and there's that mutual respect there between the two fan bases, it creates for a very fun environment, in my opinion.
All right, fellas. I think that about wraps it up. I mean, it's funny because like I don't want to talk about the Dodgers. I just I'm jealous. I'm envious. They got Yamamoto. I wanted him bad this offseason. I mean, I knew they were going to get Otani. That felt
Yeah,
inevitable.
yeah. I
But
think I could have
you
called that
know,
one from a few months back.
At the same time, you got to
but
thank them for taking Glasnow off of Tampa's hands.
yeah, that's valid. I mean, I guess we can worry about him if we get there, right? If we have to worry about him, then that means we did our part and we won the pennant at minimum.
Yeah,
So we'll see what happens. But I'm pretty content with where the Yankees are at right now, and I think that we'll be in a position to go out and get a big starting pitcher at the deadline and a bat maybe if need be. But I like our lineup a lot.
definitely. Well,
Yeah.
still got a little bit of off season left, so we'll see what happens between now and next time. But
Until then, we'll catch you next week.
Yeah.
sounds good, everybody.